So for devotions this week, we're going to be looking at the story of Laban. Now, what do we know about Laban and his family history? Well, one, we're introduced to him in the book of Genesis, and specifically we're introduced in chapter 24 of Genesis. Number two, and we'll learn this in this chapter, is that he's the brother of Rebekah, who becomes the wife of Isaac. And three, that makes him the uncle of Jacob, and we will discuss their relationship later this week. So to begin, let's all open our Bibles to Genesis 24 and read of this man named Laban. And let's start by giving a bit of context to this chapter, because it's always important when doing Bible study to make sure you understand the context, because it will help you better understand the characters and the environment that they are in. So Abraham was getting older, and he says to his trusted servant, "Go and find a wife for my son Isaac." So this servant departs to the place where Abraham told him to go, and as he prays for it, he asks God to direct him in finding the woman for Isaac to marry. And God answers this prayer. And Rebekah, she comes out to the well and gives this servant and his camels water to drink. And this servant knows that this woman is the woman chosen by God to marry Isaac, because this is what he prays for. He prays for God to show him the woman that God has chosen. And out comes Rebekah to feed him or to give him water and his camels. The servant then asks for a place to lodge and thanks God for providing him an answer. But there's something important to notice about this story, because it's something that I believe Laban struggled with. And that is material possessions. And let's start by reading verse 22. So this is Genesis 24, and starting at verse 22, and it says, "And it came to pass, as the camels had done drinking, that the man took a golden earring of 1/2 shekel weight, and 2 bracelets for her hands of 10 shekels weight of gold." So she was given gifts of golden earrings and bracelets. And what does Laban, her brother, first notice? Let's find out. Let's read verse 29. So if you skip down to verse 29, we'll read from there to verse 31. It says, "And Rebekah had a brother, and his name was Laban. And Laban ran out unto the man unto the well. And it came to pass, when he saw the earrings and bracelets upon his sister's hands, and when he had heard the words of Rebekah his sister, saying, Thus spake the man unto me, that he came unto the man, and behold, he stood by the camels at the well. And he said, Come in, thou blessed of the Lord, wherefore standest thou without? For I have prepared the house and room for the camels." So these are the first words recorded about Laban. And sometimes the first words we have of an individual in the Bible can tell us a lot about the type of people that they are. So let's look at some examples of individuals in the Bible where they are introduced. And let's look specifically about what it says about their characters. So let's turn back a little bit to Genesis chapter 12. In Genesis chapter 12, and we know this character very well, this is Abraham. So this is when we're introduced to Abraham in Genesis 12, and we'll read the first 4 verses. It says, Now the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and I will make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abraham departed, as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abraham was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. So God calls this man out from Abraham. And Abraham really shows his faith here. He lets God guide him. He doesn't put up an argument. He follows God's words right away. And he packs up and he leaves for a land that God will show him. Now Abraham didn't know where he was headed. But God said, I will show you where to go. And that's Abraham's faith. Right? And this is a theme throughout Abraham's life. He is known for his faith and his trust in God. So the first words that are spoken about Abraham tell us a lot about him. This is a man of great faith and trust in God, for him to just pack up everything he knew and to leave. The second individual we're going to look at is Samuel, and that's found in 1 Samuel chapter 3. So if you turn over to 1 Samuel chapter 3, we'll read of this young boy named Samuel. 1 Samuel 3 and verse 1. And the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was precious or rare in those days. There was no open vision. It says that Samuel ministered unto God and unto Eli. And that word minister is actually a priestly action. So this young boy Samuel was showing, and more importantly doing, priestly actions at a very young age. And all through his life, he is ministering unto God. He's always doing things for God and his people. He was a man of service all his life. And that's a great example for us, to do all things for God, just like this young boy Samuel did. Now, the next example is a not so good example, and this is King Saul. And if you just turn over a few pages to 1 Samuel 10, we'll read of King Saul. And when Samuel anoints King Saul, and he shows the people who he's anointed, what does Saul do? Let's read about it. 1 Samuel 10, verse 19 to 22. And ye have this day, this is Samuel speaking unto the people, rejected your God, who himself saved you out of all your adversities and your tribulations. And ye have said unto him, Nay, but set a king over us. Now therefore, present yourselves before the Lord by your tribes and by your thousands. And when Samuel had caused all the tribes of Israel to come near, the tribe of Benjamin was taken. When he had caused the tribe of Benjamin to come near by their families, the families of Matri were taken. And Saul, the son of Kish, was taken. And when they sought him, he could not be found. Therefore they inquired of the Lord further, if the man should yet come thither. And the Lord answered, Behold, he hath hid himself among the stuff. So Saul is presented to the nation of Israel to be their king. But when the time came to be introduced to the people, it says Saul hid. He was afraid. He was scared to be king. And he wasn't fit to be a leader. He looked the part of a king. He was taller and better looking than anybody else, but he wasn't a leader. He wanted to hide rather than take responsibility. And this is all throughout Saul's life. He was a terrible leader of the people and a bad king. This should have been a red flag for the people right at the beginning of when Saul was introduced. The next one we're going to look at is in Nehemiah. And we'll look at the man Nehemiah. So it was Ezra and Nehemiah. So Nehemiah chapter 1 and verses 3 and 4. So Nehemiah 1 verses 3 and 4. And they said unto me, the remnant that are left of the captivity there in the province are in great affliction and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem also is broken down, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. And it came to pass when I heard these words, that I sat down and wept, and mourned certain days, and fasted, and prayed before the God of heaven. So there's two things here to notice with Nehemiah in our introduction to him. When Nehemiah hears that Jerusalem is in ruins, he's determined to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the city. Nothing would deter him from that goal. And the second thing is we're told that he prays right away. When he finds the news, his reaction is to pray to God. And that's a theme throughout Nehemiah's life. He's a man of prayer. And these verses show us this character of Nehemiah. He was a man of prayer and a man of action. We have looked at a few examples of individuals where when they're introduced to us, it can tell us a lot about their characters and the type of people that they are. Now, if words were written to describe you, how would you be introduced to people for the first time? Would they be good words or bad words? Would they say you are kind and thoughtful and caring? Or would they say that you love your stuff and care more about yourself than others? Hopefully they would say good things, right? We want people to see us as good people and have characteristics like God. And that will make them want to be friends with us. But with Laban here, it says the first thing that he notices is that he saw the earrings and the bracelets on his sister's hands. He immediately notices material things. He saw how amazing these earrings and bracelets were. This was a man that was drawn to material things. And Genesis 31 also talks about how Laban feels about material things. So if we go back to Genesis, in Genesis 31, and we're going to read the first 5 verses. Genesis 31, starting at verse 1. And he heard the words of Laban's sons. This is Jacob hearing these words. Jacob hath taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's hath he gotten all his glory. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. And the Lord said unto Jacob, return unto the land of thy fathers and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field unto his flock, and said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that it is not toward me as before, but the God of my father hath been with me. So we're told the countenance of Laban was changed toward Jacob, because Jacob was blessed by God in the multitude of the cattle and flocks that he had. Laban felt jealous. He thought he was being robbed by Jacob because Laban gave him the worst of the cattle, but God turns around and he makes that a blessing. And those cast away animals turned into the best of flocks. They were better than Laban's. And Laban wanted the best things. He wanted all the material things in life. And when Jacob flees with his family, and Rachel his wife steals the gods of Laban, he notices. Genesis 31 verse 30 says, And now, though thou wouldest needs be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house, yet wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? This is Laban speaking to Jacob. He catches Jacob. But Laban, he's upset because someone has taken his material things. Someone's taken his gods. And 1 Corinthians 6 verse 7 tells us, suffer yourselves to be defrauded. And this means when someone steals from us or takes things from us, we don't steal back or demand it to be repaid. Christ tells us to just forget about the material things in life. Forget about the stuff we have. It's not important. But Laban doesn't understand this principle. He needs his stuff. Those things are so important to him, that's all he cares about. We need to make sure that what is talked about in our lives is not that we love our stuff or our possessions, but that we're kind and we're thoughtful and we're caring towards others. That's what God wants to see in our lives. Not the character of Laban, but the character of Abraham. So as we go about our day and onto the rest of this week, let's work on showing those godly characteristics to our friends. So thank you for listening, and tomorrow we will continue looking at the life of this man Laban, and specifically look at decision making and how Laban goes about making decisions in his life. Hope you have a great day.